My name is Emma Miller. I just turned 30 recently. Today, I want to share with you the story of a major turnaround in my life. I have an older brother, 2 years older. His name is Simon. Since we were young, Simon had what you might call a finished face, sharp features that made him stand out in our neighborhood. There were rumors he might even be scouted by some talent agency. He was the classic handsome guy. Charming and smart, quick-witted even as a child. Everyone adored him, including our parents and other adults. On the other hand, I was the only chubby one in our family since kindergarten. Though my facial features were similar to Simon's, being chubby have their appeal. I was shy and lacked charm. Not being talkative like my brother, I never got compliments for being smart. I realized even as a child how different we siblings were perceived by those around us. Maybe my parents heard such comparisons. Because by the time I started elementary school, they seemed to have lost interest in me. My grades were lower compared to Simon's at the same age, and I remained plump. While Simon received snacks, I didn't. Yet somehow, I was always chubby. My mother used to laugh and say, "Really, you're just like a round rolling ball." As a child, I didn't quite understand and felt somewhat happy when she laughed, but now I realize I was just being mocked. Simon always had reasons to get new clothes and shoes, be it his birthday, scoring in soccer, and so on. Meanwhile, despite being a girl, I only had hand-me-downs from him, even shoes. I can't count how many times I tripped wearing shoes that didn't fit. The only treasure I had was the school backpack my grandparents sent just for me before they passed away. After a while, Simon graduated from elementary school and went on to a private middle school. He was accepted into a well-known school for its academic excellence, and our parents were overjoyed. Around this time, Simon, with his cute, almost celebrity-like appearance, was even scouted to be a kid model. Because of this, our mother, especially, would frequently walk with him on prominent streets like Broadway. As if to show him off, saying, "Look how handsome my son is." In contrast, I never went out with my mother. Perhaps when I was a baby, but I have no memory of it since I became aware. Once, Simon said, "Next time, let's take Emma too." I think he realized, even as a child, that I was being neglected by our parents. However, my mother blatantly showed her displeasure at his suggestion and just replied, "Sure, maybe someday." Far from feeling happy about Simon's considerate words, I just felt a deep sense of misery, even as a child. Years later, I too became a middle school student. Unlike Simon, I went to a regular public middle school. From the start, it seemed my parents had no expectations for me and didn't bother considering private school. My father even declared, "We can't afford to spend money on you." Although I never had a particular desire to go to a private school, being told this outright made me feel like opportunities in my life were being shut down. As a child, I vaguely thought this was just how it was to be a younger sister, not knowing any different from other families. When I became aware of my surroundings, the abnormality of my family seemed normal to me. Around this time, as I was entering adolescence, I began to wonder why I was always treated so differently. However, my parents' treatment towards me only became worse. Despite my mother being a housewife and presumably having time, she delegated household chores and shopping to me, often going out with her friends. My father, on his part, would scold me when I wanted to go out with my friends, asking, "What about the housework?" Simon always cared for me, helped out, and even argued with our parents on my behalf. But when it came to they treated me, they never listened to his opinions. Eventually, Simon went through interview with top-tiered high school. And he got into one of the top schools in the county. After that, he seemed too busy to pay attention to home affairs, let alone mine. That's when I really began to experience what I can only describe as hell. The first major incident was the missed parent-teacher meeting. In any other family, parents missing such a meeting would be a significant event. But to my parents, not attending such meetings was a non-issue, as if saying, "We're not going, so what?" The truth was, throughout my 3 years in middle school, they only attended once, during my first year. They didn't show up in my second year or even during the crucial third year when I was facing exams. My teacher expressed concern, wondering if something was happening at home, but I just brushed it off. I knew my situation wasn't normal, but it's not like my parents were physically abusive. I didn't know how to articulate the ongoing mental anguish I was experiencing. Talking about it felt embarrassingly shameful. Like confessing, I'm a child who isn't cherished by her parents. And the incidents continued. The next one was the New Year's left behind incident. That year, on New Year's Eve, my parents went back to my mother's hometown, taking only Simon with them. Last year, I was part of it too, but this year, being a student preparing for exams, I was told, you should stay home and study. Probably, they just found me annoying under the pretext of studying. As a result, I ended up spending New Year's Eve alone. I couldn't bring myself to ask friends to hang out on such a day, feeling like it would be saying, I'm a lonely kid left behind. So, I stayed home, watched the music awards alone, catching Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, and went to sleep after shedding a few tears. The next morning, the doorbell rang repeatedly, waking me up. Thinking it's way too early for my folks to show up, I nervously peeped through the intercom to see who was there. It was my mother's brother and his wife. Totally taken aback, I dashed to the door, hair all messy, and blurted out, "What's up?" "Emma, we're getting you out of here." Your mother agreed to it. "Don't sweat it, we'll sort out the paperwork later." "Huh? Uncle. What? What are you talking about?" His tone had me all shook up. I just couldn't get it. "What's this about leaving the house?" "Emma, if you're comfortable with it, we'd love for you to be our kid. We've got no children of our own. But you know, right from the day you were born, you've been like a daughter to us." It was all a blur to me. True enough, my aunt and uncle couldn't have kids because of health issues, but they've always been super sweet to me every time I came over. I'm aware of how many times they've expressed their concerns about the way my parents treat me. My aunt was the one who played with me when I was left alone, as Simon was the only one my parents paid attention to. And it was my uncle who bought me popular sweets and cute clothes. I have far more fond memories with them than my parents. "We were with my sister and her family until just now," my uncle said. "They're planning not to let you go to college. They said that once you turn 18, they'll make you work to support Simon's college expenses. We can't just stand by and let this happen. You have the right to go to school, and you shouldn't have to grind yourself down for the family." I wondered if this was what being stunned felt like. My parents were planning to sacrifice my future for Simon's. That's why they hadn't come to the parent-teacher conferences these past few years. They aren't interested in me, my dreams, or my hopes. In their eyes, my life is planned out to work tirelessly like a workhorse. As I collapsed weakly, my aunt and uncle knelt down and comforted me. "I know we're not your real parents, and you might feel uneasy about it. But I promise to make you happy." Tears welled up in my aunt's eyes, and she hugged me as if overwhelmed with emotion. "You have the right to be happy. We should have come to get you sooner. If you're okay with it, we'd like you to become our daughter." With tears in his eyes, my uncle looked straight at me and said those words. I wondered if I'd ever been wanted like this by any adult in my life. Though I was barely over 10 years old, it was clear what choice I should make. I decided to get adopted by my aunt and uncle. 10 years have passed since then. Ever since they took me in, my aunt and uncle showered me so much love and provided countless fun experiences. My aunt enjoyed picking out clothes for me, often taking me shopping on weekends. My uncle, who had always wanted to drink wine with his daughter, prepared a bottle from the year I was born for my 21st birthday. We went on trips together, and my uncle, who had a childlike side, even took me to the zoo and aquariums when I was in high school. These are precious memories I'll never forget, unlike anything I experienced with my real parents. Initially, I called them uncle and aunt, but gradually, they became nothing less than my parents in my heart. Now, I call them dad and mom. When my parents went back to their hometown, they apparently told my aunt and uncle in a drunken state, "Emma is just hopeless in everything. She's not charming, and let's be honest, she's not much to look at. She lacks charisma and isn't smart either. Frankly, we don't need a dumb daughter like her. We already have our brilliant elder son." My aunt and uncle were furious, but far from being ashamed, my parents even declared, "We're not gonna let her go to college." That's when the discussion of adoption came up. Despite it being New Year's Eve, my sober aunt drove to my place. I'm truly grateful for that. I wanted to repay my beloved parents in some way, to become a daughter they'd be proud to have taken in. So, once I entered high school, I studied hard. I couldn't really focus during my high school because of everything that was happening. That's why I decided to change my approach and set goals for a future that would make my aunt and uncle proud. My efforts paid off, and I got into a prestigious state university. But that alone wasn't enough to express my gratitude to them, my dear parents. I wanted to provide them with a comfortable life in the future. With that determination, I continued to study hard in college. I even earned a meteorologist certification while still a student and now appear on TV as a meteorologist. Additionally, wanting to make my aunt and uncle proud, I dedicated myself to dieting and strength training. Now, I'm known as the beautiful weathercaster. Looking back, I always had the potential to be beautiful since I resembled my brother in looks. My aunt and uncle always said they were proud of me just as I was, but now I feel like I've truly become their pride and joy. Just as I was thinking about how much more I wanted to repay and express my gratitude, my biological parents suddenly appeared before me. "Emma, wow, you've grown into such a fine young lady." My parents, with tears in their eyes, clung to me. I was about to get into my car after leaving the TV station and was completely taken aback by this sudden encounter. Honestly, it had been so long that I didn't recognize them at first. "I saw you on TV and was so surprised. Simon told me it was you, Emma. Who would have thought you'd become such a beauty, and a meteorologist at that?" My father patted my shoulder as if to say, "That's my daughter. Indeed, you really are our daughter. We're so proud." They actually said it. I couldn't hide my disgust, glaring at my parents without reservation. Unfazed, they kept pushing the conversation. "Oh, since we're here, let's have a meal at that fancy restaurant down the road." "Right, as a meteorologist, you must be earning a good salary, huh?" As if it was by chance to meet me, but they were stalking me like predators, waiting in ambush. And after suggesting a meal to ask if I'm earning well, it's clear they're just looking to leech off me. They won't get the chance to mooch off me. I must send them away, make them never want to see me again. That's when a plan formed in my mind. I could use this approach. "Mom, Dad, it's great to see you. But I can't join you for a meal today, I've got another job lined up." "Sorry." Of course, there's no other job. The only plan I have is to give my beloved aunt and uncle a dinner at a fancy restaurant as an anniversary gift. "Oh, is that so? That's too bad." My mother said, almost clicking her tongue, which I didn't miss. "If it's okay, can I get your contact info? I'm having a small party for my birthday with some folks from the TV station. There'll be lots of good food, and it'll be quite fancy, so I'd like to invite you both." As soon as I suggested this, my parents' eyes lit up. "Really? Wow, that's amazing. TV station, huh? Does that mean actors will be there?" "Oh, darling. Of course they will be." My parents are smiling and getting excited. Little do they know, no actors will be attending. It's a small-scale party for meteorologists, after all. The main attendees are staff from newspapers and TV stations. At most, the fanciest guests will be the newscasters and some MCs. Without responding to my parents' expectant gazes, I just smiled and said, "See you at the party," before leaving. A month later. As planned, the venue was rented out, and my birthday party took place. Though it was small-scale, quite a few people gathered since we rented a party space. There, my parents arrived, waving their hands, shouting, "Emma." They acted as if to say, "Look, look. We're the parents." It was really annoying. "Mom, Dad, welcome. Could you please go to the waiting room first? We have everything set up for you, from clothes to makeup. The clothes you're wearing are nice, but we have brand clothes available for rent, so why not try them out and enjoy the atmosphere?" My suggestion brought full smiles to my parents' faces. They're so transparent. Eagerly cheerful, just for show. "Oh my, I hardly ever get to wear brand name clothes. Do you think they'll suit me?" "You're put on a bit of weight, though." "Oh, stop it, darling." I watched their exchange and chimed in, "You're both still young and beautiful, so everything will look great on you." They nodded as if they had been waiting for those words. As a child, I was too afraid of being disliked more to see them clearly, and they seemed inscrutable. But now, they appear quite simple. They wag their tails for high-end items, power, beauty, things everyone likes. That's just the kind of people they are. After getting their hair and makeup done, and feeling quite pleased with themselves, my parents returned to the party. My mother wore a light pink off-the-shoulder miniskirt dress, something a younger person would wear. It was an absurdly age-inappropriate look, with her saggy knees betraying her true age. My father chose a bright red suit with a flashy yellow and green geometric patterned tie. Incidentally, he was the only one at the venue dressed in such flamboyant colors. Even at a party without a strict dress code, nobody would choose such a tasteless combination. The clothes were indeed brand name, but they were picked up from a second-hand shop. In fact, I arranged it all. I told the makeup and costume crew that my parents are coming today and to dress them in these clothes. They're from a family party we attended when I was little, a treasured memory. I said, ensuring no one would question it. Of course, there's no such memory of going to a party with these parents, but a little white lie serves a purpose. My parents, believing the clothes were high-end brands and hearing me repeatedly say they looked good, seemed quite pleased despite the flashy and somewhat embarrassing attire. It's flashy and a bit embarrassing, but if you say it looks good, then it must be fine, they seemed to think. My parents would listen to everything my accomplished brother said, except for matters concerning me. Now, that attention is directed at me, who has also become accomplished. A while later, as the party started and it was time for me to give a speech as the guest of honor, I told my parents before going on stage, I have a message for you both today, so make sure to listen, and I held their hands. They were surprised and looked happily at me as I ascended the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for gathering here today to celebrate my birthday. I also want to express my gratitude to everyone who helped plan this party. My friends interjected with playful remarks like, "That's so formal. You're not usually like that." Hearing this, I jokingly replied, just being myself, as I turned towards my parents. Today, my parents are also here at this event. They're right over there. Pointing in their direction, the lighting crew highlighted them. Those are my shameless parents who abandoned me in my teens but ambushed me after seeing me on TV. The room buzzed with surprise at my words. Understandably so, as I had rarely shared my past with anyone other than close friends. Emma, how can you say that? My mother stood up, while my father looked stunned. Those two began comparing me unfavorably to my successful brother since I was old enough for kindergarten, always treating me harshly. I was the only one who didn't get snacks. I wore my brother's hand-me-downs. Even in elementary school, despite how they treated me, I still loved my parents. To a child, parents are everything. But in middle school, they continually burdened me with household chores and then declared I wouldn't be allowed to go to college. They didn't even attend my parent-teacher conferences. Eventually, my concerned aunt and uncle adopted me. I'm usually very cheerful, I must say. It's because my aunt and uncle took me in and constantly showed me love, making me realize I wasn't a worthless child. I gained confidence, overcame my shyness, and became outgoing. So, my backstory came as a shock to the people at the party, who know me as a cheerful person. Before long, I heard voices criticizing my parents, calling them the worst and commenting on their inappropriate attire for their daughter's birthday. My parents couldn't bear the judgmental stares and trembled with their heads down. But now, I am grateful to them. Because of what they did, I was blessed with my aunt and uncle, my truly important parents, and learned the warmth of a family. At that, my parents looked at me as if to say, "So we're important parents after all?" I quietly smiled back at them. "Mr. Smith from Daily Information, are you here? Please, make an article out of this story and take photos. Consider it a birthday present to me." As I called out to a magazine acquaintance from the stage, they had already captured my parents' images on camera. "Stop it! Don't take pictures!" My parents panicked, desperately trying to hide their faces. So ungraceful in defeat. I lashed out at them. "When I was little, no matter how much I begged you to stop, you forced me to do things I hated. It's pretty convenient for you to say stop now, isn't it?" My mother was tearing up at my scolding. "I'll apologize, just please don't publish the article. We will be blamed. You wouldn't want us to go through that, would you, Emma?" I was appalled at her audacity. "Do you really think I still consider you my parents? You neglected to raise me properly and abandoned all your responsibilities as parents. My true parents are my aunt and uncle, they are the only ones I acknowledge as my mom and dad. Stay out of my life forever." Before I knew it, the memories of the past and my gratitude towards my aunt and uncle welled up, and tears naturally flowed. Seeing this, some guests forcibly escorted my parents out of the venue. It was over. This time, truly, I had completely severed ties with those people. As a child, it was like being sheltered by my aunt and uncle when I cut ties. But now, I had managed to distance myself from them with my own strength. A sense of accomplishment and gratitude towards my aunt and uncle brought tears to my eyes again. Yet, I felt incredibly liberated. Later, when the magazine staff asked if I was sure about publishing the story, I insisted, "Please do." The article about my upbringing turned out to be quite sensational. Despite the concerns about damaging my image, it was mostly received positively, with headlines like "The Girl Who Fought Back" and "A Modern-Day Cinderella Story." Far from harming my reputation, it actually improved it. As for those two, whom I reluctantly call my parents, they were shunned by their neighbors after the article's publication and had to move. The rumor spread quickly at my father's workplace, leading to his forced retirement. My mother, who had always been a homemaker, and my father now relied on their savings to get by, as I learned from Simon. Yes, even after I was adopted, Simon continued to care for me, visiting me at my new home with my aunt and uncle. At first, Simon said he wanted to live together again, but soon he was happy that he had supported my adoption, saying, "It's better for Emma to stay in that house." He was the caring brother who even helped me with my studies during college. Following my revelation to the magazine, he decided to have nothing more to do with our biological parents, essentially cutting ties with them. "Maybe the next time I'll see them is at a funeral," he joked, but knowing him, he might not even attend that. It's been 5 years since then. I married Mr. Smith from the magazine that helped publish my story. We now have children, twins, a boy and a girl. I want to be a mother who nurtures them equally, allowing them to grow up happily and freely. Just as my aunt and uncle showered me with unconditional love, and my brother watched over me from a distance, I want my children to grow up kind and caring towards everyone. But there's still more for me to do beyond parenting. Repaying my aunt and uncle's kindness. This year, for their anniversary, my husband, kids, and I took them on a trip to Hawaii. They keep saying, "Emma, you have your own family now, you don't need to do this," but repaying them is also a joy for me. It's not an obligation, I do it because I love seeing them happy. It's like a life purpose for me. Don't take away my fun. I say jokingly, already planning the next. Maybe a stay at a luxurious hotel for all of us next time. There are so much I want to do with my family going forward.